are indeed delighted to have you all here to participate in this literacy extravaganza. Our effort in the observance of International Literacy Day. Like Guyana, the observance of International Literacy Day is in its Jubilee year. The UN Secretary General tells us that this year the world has embarked on implementing the ambitious and transformational 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. This is an action plan for people, planet, partnership, and peace. Further, he challenges governments and the private sector to join forces for universal literacy and build peaceful, just, inclusive, and sustainable societies. Further, the UNESCO Director General says, literacy is a foundation to build a more sustainable future for all. As we gather here today, a two-day conference is taking place at the UNESCO headquarters in Paris. The highlight there is to award literacy prizes and at the same time launch the Global Alliance for Literacy, which aims at making all major stakeholders work together to promote literacy as a foundation for lifelong learning. As we celebrate the efforts and progress made over the past 5 decades, we are mindful that every child should be a reader by grade 4. We celebrate the fact that Guyana is on the verge of achieving universal primary education. We celebrate the fact that attendance at the primary level is at 74% and improving. Further, we celebrate that Guyana has a structured 2-year nursery program which adequately prepares nursery children for the primary level. We also celebrate that all children have access to quality basic education. Let me echo the words of Frank Sarafina. There is no such thing as a child who hates to read.
This morning I've been asked to read, and I would want to read this morning from this book, which is entitled Living for Triumph, Climbing the Summit of Success. It's written by Felix Cortez, and I'm going to read 2 pages from chapter 3. Chapter 3 is entitled The First Law of Success, Living with Objectives. And I'm going to focus on the story, and the story is on Helen Keller, who I suspect most of us in education would be aware of her challenges that she overcame. The story of Helen Keller never gets old. This is because there are some biographies whose appeal increased with time. At the age of 19 months, she became blind, deaf, and mute. At 6 years of age, she was swallowed up by darkness and silence. She did not fall into apathy. However, like so many other children who suffer this triple challenge, her strong temperament and iron will were like a boiling cauldron with no valves and nowhere for its content to go. That is why, although Helen's nature was sweet, when she was not able to make herself understood, she would explode in violent tantrums, kicking and screaming, which could go on for hours, frightening her mother. She was like a titan tied with strong rope. Since she had been a baby, she had rebelled against the triple obstacle that denied her the light of her life. Many years later, she described what she experienced. I felt as if there were invisible hands holding me, and I would fight desperately to break free. Her teacher, Anne Sullivan, said, her restless spirit travels blindly in the dark. And so I touch now on liberation from chains, silence, and isolation. The story of how Helen Keller managed to free herself from the chains of silence and darkness has become a legend because she could neither see nor hear. Many physical sensations buzzed in her mind, but she could neither interpret nor rationalize them. She was unable even to think, since language is the instrument of thought. She seemed unable to receive external messages or send any of her own. Her spirit was silent, dark, and empty. Despite all this, Helen Keller was able to express what she felt, and she was able to understand what people said. We aren't really going to get into how she did this. However, it is certain, though, that the ability and the ingenuity of Anne Sullivan, along with great perseverance, dedication, and effort on the part of both, she managed to communicate with others very successfully. One day, she had learned to communicate.
I have chosen this morning to read from a speech of late President Hoyt, an address by His Excellency U. Desmond Hoyt, SC, President of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana, to the 4th Caribbean Pundits Conference, Trinidad and Tobago, on the 70th of December 1987. I've chosen to read from this speech because I think its content is very, very relevant today in the Guyanese society. And since we are also concentrating on the question of reading, I think it's a well-written speech, and therefore a good example for those of us who are embracing the whole question of reading and literacy. And probably I also chose it because it's simple to read. So I begin. I'm sensible of the fact that I have been asked to speak not in virtue of any special knowledge or learning that I have of Hindu philosophy and culture, but rather I believe because I am head of state of a country which has been endowed by history with a rich diversity of religious thought, practice, and which has striven, not without success, to convert this very diversity into a source of strength, an instrument of social harmony and cohesion, and the foundation of national unity. Such unity, apart from being a blessing in its own right, is an indispensable condition for the practice of that very religious plurality which constitutes the peculiar quality of our social fabric and a distinguishing feature of our national identity. The ideal of unity among people has always been a central theme of the great religions and pervades their scriptures. And so it is that so many of thousands of years ago, we find this Chaupai in Ramayana, the path of divine life.
I'm going to be reading an excerpt from Olive Sr.'s The Boy Who Loved Ice Cream, a short story. They walked down the path in single file, first the father carrying the baby Beatrice on his shoulder, then the mother, then Elsa. He brought up the rear. Wearing unaccustomed sandals, Benji found it hard to keep his foot on the slippery path. Once or twice, he almost fell, and throwing out his hands to break his fall, had touched the ground. Unconsciously, he wiped his hands on his seat so that his new Sunday go-to-church pants that his mother had made from cutting down one of his father's old jackets was already dirty with bits of mud and green bush clinging to him. But there was nobody behind him to see. They were already late for the Harvest Festival sale, or so his father claimed. Papa also said that it was his fault. But then, his father blamed him for a lot of things, even when he was not to be blamed. The boy wasn't sure why his father was sometimes so irritable towards him, and lived in a constant state of suspense over what his father's response to him was likely to be. Now, he had been ready first. First, his sister had taken him around the side of the house for his bath. She held him and firmly scrubbed him down with a strainer covered in soap. Then, she had stuck the long-handled dipper into the drum of water and poured it over him from head to foot. He made noises as the cold water hit him and would have run, but Elsa always had a firm grip on one of his limbs. "Stand still, you jumbo-head boy, or I'll conk you till you fenny," she hissed at him. Although he knew that her threats were infrequently accompanied by action beyond a slap or two, still, he tried to get away from her grip, for he hated this weekly ritual of bathing. But Elsa by now had learned to control him, and she carried the bath through without mishap, for she had whispered, "All right, don't have your bath and see what happens. See if you get no ice cream." Ice cream. The words conveyed to him the sound of everything in his life that he had always wanted, always longed for, but could not give a name to. He had never tasted ice cream. It was Elsa who had told him about it. 2 years ago at the Harvest Festival sale, Mr. Doran had brought an ice cream bucket and had spent the evening the most popular man at the sale, his very customers fighting to get an opportunity to turn the bucket. According to Elsa's description, this marvelous bucket somehow produced something that, she said, was not a drink and was not a food. It was hot and it was cold, both at the same time. You didn't chew it, but if you held it on your tongue long enough, it vanished, leaving an aftertrace that lingered and lingered like a beautiful dream. Elsa, the excitable, the imaginative, the self-assured, told him, "Think of your best dream," when he didn't understand. "Think of it in colors," she said, "pink and mauve and green, and imagine it with edges. Then imagine licking it slowly round and round the edges. That's how ice cream was." But this description only bewildered him more. He sighed and tried hard to imagine it, but he couldn't, because he didn't have a best dream or even a good dream, only nightmares. And his mother would hold him, and his father would say, "What is wrong with this picnic, eh? A mampala man your race?" Then the baby had come, and he didn't have his mother's lap anymore. Now imagining ice cream, he thought of sitting cuddled in his mother's arms again, and saw this mysterious new creation as something warm and beautiful. From Elsa's description, ice cream was the most marvelous thing he had ever heard of.
Today I will be reading from the United Nations 1959 Declaration of the Rights of the Child. And in keeping with the theme of Education Month, I will be reading Principles 1, 2, 5, 6, and 7. The General Assembly proclaims this Declaration of the Rights of the Child to the end that he may have a happy childhood and enjoy for his own good and for the good of the society the rights and the freedoms set forth, and calls upon parents, upon men and women as individuals, upon voluntary organizations, local authorities, national governments to recognize these rights and strive for their observance by legislative and other measures, progressively taken in with the following principles. Principle 1. The child shall enjoy all the rights set forth in this declaration. Every child, without any exception whatsoever, shall be entitled to these rights, without distinction or discrimination, on account of race, color, sex, language, political or other opinion, national or social origin, property, birth or other status, whether of himself or of his family. Principle 2. The child shall enjoy special protection and shall be given opportunities and facilities by law and by other means to enable him to develop physically, mentally, morally, spiritually, and socially in a healthy and normal manner, and in conditions of freedom and dignity, in the enactment of laws for the purpose. The best interest of the child shall be the paramount consideration. Principle 5. The child who is physically, mentally, or socially handicapped shall be given special treatment, education, care required by his particular condition. Principle 6. The child, for the full and harmonious development of his personality, needs love and understanding. He shall, wherever possible, grow up in care and under the responsibility of his parents, and in any case, in an atmosphere of affection and moral and material security. A child of tender years shall not, save in exceptional circumstances, be separated from his mother. Society and the public authorities shall have the duty to extend particular care to the children without a family, and to those without adequate means of support, payment of state, and other assistance towards the maintenance of children of large families is desirable. Principle 7. The child is entitled to receive education which shall be free and compulsory, at least in the elementary stages. He shall be given an education which will promote his general culture and enable him on a basis of equal opportunity to develop his abilities, his individual judgment, and his sense of moral and social responsibility, and to become a useful member of society. The best interest of the child shall be the guiding principle of those responsible for his education.
The name of my book is Market Day. Mother is going to the market. Pat and Joy are going to the market. They are going with mother. Father is not going to the market. Father is going to the shop.
I've chosen to read the prologue to David Dabydin's novel, Johnson's Dictionary. David Dabydin is a professor of English, a Guyanese professor of English at the University of Warwick, and a very, very distinguished artist. These things he knew: a calabash scraped of skin and painted in the colors of dusk, an ancient brush of llama branches inherited from his father and his father before him, and vials containing psyllium juice and the venom of water snakes, which only he could blend, to become poison with benevolent fruit, so that when a child was born, he could anoint his forehead with the potion and ordain for it a life of constancy, passion contained within wisdom, anger within forgiveness, sickness within hope, death within the intimation of stars. And only he, Manu, originator of life, could read the scroll of light that was the evening sky. It was his task to bear this knowledge, inherited from his master, and his master before him, and out of such knowledge to name the newly born and to determine its future. When a child was born, it was first brought to his hut, for without its naming, it could not be displayed to the tribe. These things he knew: the bawling of babies awaiting their names, the night air stinging their new skin, the night air like cinder in their lungs, and the sudden stillness as he brushed their foreheads clean, applied the potion from the calabash bowl, and called them Saba or Tanika or Elar, signifying that this one would be the village beggar, that one a planter of eddos, the other a shrimp seller. Calabash, vials, brush, potion, and an evening sky textured with stars. These were the measure and security of his life. His place in the village was constant because he had a particular function which only he could discharge. There was the elder, schooled from childhood in the remembrance of their laws, who sat in judgment over adulterer and thief and gossiper. There was the sorcerer, the keeper of the secrets of their masks, who knew what colors and patterns their faces must wear for particular ceremonies. And there was Manu, diviner of stars. The three of them maintained the order of the village, governing over farmer and fisherman and weaver of cloth. And all life was contained within the boundaries of the village, the fields of jamun and guinea trees, and the grasslands for their livestock. Beyond was the habitation of their ancestors, who never appeared to them, not even in dreams. Beyond was unthinkable, for it was the realm of loss. As unthinkable as the present was clear, the clearly defined tasks and duties and ceremonies of the village, until one dread night, when an infant was brought howling to him, and he scoured the sky for its name, but the stars were shaken from their frames, and he was speechless before the chaos, the unexpected sadness of their lives that the brightest star foretold. The child howled, and for the first time he felt pity for its pain, knowing that he was unable to determine its future, to moderate its pleasures and its sufferings, so life would become acceptable to it. He brushed its forehead, anointed it, and gave it a false name, for the stars could not be read. The infant continued to cry, and no amount of rocking and singing could comfort it. He knew then that the appearance of the new star presaged their destruction. The ways of their village would be changed forever, and with it his reason for being. The elder gave his judgment. Two cannot govern the village, he told Manu. There must be three. It has always been so. But I must go, Manu insisted. There is nowhere to go. Beyond us there is nothing, the elder adjudicated. Manu pointed to the heavens and to the new stars summoning him to an unthinkable fate. But the elder could not distinguish one light from the next. It was not his role to divine the meaning of stars. The knowledge which once gave pride to Manu, became burdensome. He felt trapped by a secret which could not be shared with others. Look, he addressed the elder in a tone of desperation, pointing again to the new star. But what was obvious to Manu was unthinkable to the elder. He gave his judgment again. Two cannot govern the village. There must be three. It has always been so. The repetition of verdict, which once impressed Manu with its ring of authority, now sounded like the stubbornness of the ancient. I must go. Someone is born afar, and I must name it. Manu protested, for the first time in the history of the village, questioning the elder's ruling. You cannot go, the elder commanded, denying him a third time. So when everyone was asleep, Manu slipped out of the village, his calabash and brush and vials wrapped in a bundle like a thief's haul. He slipped out of the village with the guilt of a thief. He had stolen their inheritance, their right to be named, and he was taking their inheritance to give to a foreign child in a foreign land. The orchards and the grasslands give way to swamp, then to softer earth, which suddenly collapsed into emptiness, absorbing and negating his terrified humanity. Only his possessions remained as tokens of identity, reminding him of his once fixed position within the village. But now he was a loosened nail in a collapsing universe. He clutched at his possessions frantically to preserve an aspect of his former self, and he called out to the elder, to the sorcerer, but no one answered. He called out his own name, but no one answered. Once more he panicked, but the distress in his throat was stillborn. In the emptiness, his cries were rendered inaudible. He no longer mattered. He slipped out of consciousness with the guilt of a thief. Thank you very much for listening.